Krásné odpoledne, dámy a pánové. Dovolte mě vás přivítat na dalším panelu, který bude na téma DeFi. Jmenuje se konkrétně DeFi Solutions for Institutions. Ale než ještě začneme, tak bych chtěla velice poděkovat organizátorům, kterými jsou Tech Events a také jeho partnerům za uspořádání tohoto skvělého eventu a vůbec za možnost moderovat tady tento panel. A nyní se přepnu do angličtiny, jelikož tady tento panel bude mezinárodní a máme mezi náma dva speakery, kteří nemluví česky, takže celý panel bude v angličtině. So actually, this panel takes place in very difficult, I would say, kind of strange times for cryptocurrency, but also for whole economy and whole society. And we can see some people says like, now you see crypto has and DeFi not added value. It was boosted just by printing the money and etc. etc. But is it really true? Or can DeFi and crypto be the next step in the evolution and democratization of money, and those make the world better, easier place for living for all of us? About this, we'll discuss our panelists, whose are David Stancel, CTO at investment platform Fumbi. Welcome, David. Robert Schwertner, CEO at consultation company InnoMagic. Welcome, Robert. Kenneth Kumar, Managing Director in the development company DLT Software. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And online will join us Maria Stankevich, Chief Business Development Officer at EXMO Exchange and also Professor at SIIL University. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you so much.
Before we start, I just like to mention that you can also ask via your questions, which you want via Slido. Just write to your browser slide.do and with hashtag InvestGeneration. Once again, thanks all panelists for joining the discussion. And my first question is pointed to all of you. As I mentioned in the beginning, those days are maybe the worst days for crypto since the fall in 2019, when Bitcoin fell to 15% of its value since 2017. Now it's 35 or 30% from all-time high, and many people perceive crypto as an investment asset, but for many it's also a solution. It's a solution which can set up new ways how finance can work. But those new ways are called DeFi, decentralized finance. And my question to all of you is, what do you imagine under the term of decentralized finance and how they can improve the real life? David, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think I will be quite short with this one. I believe it's, in a sense, a parallel financial system that completely, or not completely, but in a way it redesigns the way the legacy financial system operates, with kind of cut off the middlemen, as we probably all know. And it brings some additional functionalities and products that were not available in the legacy system. It makes the financial system much more inclusive for everyone on the planet, who is as we know, it's a 1.5 billion people with no access to the digital money, to the bank accounts, and this can be solved by DeFi. Of course, we are still in the nascent stage, so it's volatile. It's very quirky, the infrastructure, and it's still quite risky, but that still doesn't mean that it doesn't bring added value to the market. And yeah, that's what I would say for the beginning.
Yes, let me thank you first of all being here from Austria, Vienna, in Bratislava again, and DeFi, decentralized finance. If we talk about this, we have to have a look at the word decentralized. That's first of all, versus centralized finance, which we consider the banking and financial system as such. So the question would be, has decentralized finance more to offer than centralized finance? And the answer is yes, no, and I don't know. I'm not sure. So we could see that we use blockchain technology as a basis for a new type of finance, a decentralized finance. Because, and that let's just summarize. Maybe not everybody's 100% familiar with blockchain technology, but the reason why I was so much amazed about blockchain technologies, because the internet has a flaw. When I would give you, for instance, €100 hand over in a physical world, yeah, I would just do it. I would hand over €100 note and would give it to you, for instance, yeah, or you. For some reason, maybe because I owe you the money, or I want to pay you, or is it a present, or I bought something from you. So in that world with cash, we would not need a bank next to us standing, and let's assume his bank, yeah. This mister would confirm that me, Robbie, hands over money to our wonderful moderator. No, we don't need that. But interestingly, in the internet, we need that. We need somebody who says, yes, Robbie, it's Robbie, and the counterpart is counterpart, and he has the money. And so the internet has this flaw that we need a third party, a bank, to confirm transactions. And decentralized finance and blockchain technology, the underlying technology, solves that. And that was made me so excited about this technology, that with a technology you can cut out the middleman. You mentioned that. And I think that's the core. What comes on top is that humans are still greedy when the prices go up, and they are fearful when the prices go down. So this doesn't change. The technology is there. But what I think, decentralized finance can lead to a new banking systems, maybe without banks.
Thank you very much, Rob. Kenneth?
Okay. First of all, thank you for Robbie for giving such a thorough explanation. But the way I look at it, certainly decentralized finance is not the thing that perhaps would benefit the most us in the room, but it's certainly something that can make a huge impact and huge difference in the lives of, as David mentioned, there is roughly 1.5, or some figures put it at 1.7 billion people, billion adults on this planet without access to basic checking account or basic means of making a payment or participating in the economy. And the way we look at it is that we are building a really something new that takes advantage of this brand new technology of distributed ledger that is powering the blockchain as we know it. And this really opens a world of possibilities as far as creating more inclusive products, for helping people build credit, especially in emerging nations, and as such. So there is a very big humanitarian sort of essence behind it, and that's really the driving force. And I would even beg to differ that right now there is sort of, obviously the price is very volatile, but when we take a step back 10 years ago and look at the price of crypto that was around at that time, it's still the best performing asset of all time that has outperformed S&P 500 and vast majority of assets that you could invest in.
Thank you, Kenneth. Maria, can you hear us? The stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, the guys, they mostly shared everything that I wanted to say. I just probably add a little bit about the pricing and like why DeFi is falling also, because like a lot of people currently they're blaming DeFi, that DeFi is decentralized and how can it be actually falling with the crypto markets. But first of all, like I completely agree with previous speakers that said like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency, they showed themselves like much better than, for example, S&P. But let's be honest, like the correlation of Bitcoin and the US stock market, especially like tech stock market, they reached a record, I think, last half a year. And it will be actually stupid to deny the fact that the correlation is still high. And currently their correlation is tightening. That's what we see at the moment. So the market is falling. The institutional investors who are diversifying their portfolio, obviously they are selling. First of all, crypto is the most like risky asset. So that's also like the reason why DeFi TVL is falling, just because, you know, overall market downtrend. And for example, like most of their, like not most there, but some DeFi protocols, they're using Ethereum, and Ethereum is falling. Obviously, like other tokens are falling. So this is like, yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit.
Thank you very much. Let's step back a bit and look on the DeFi like more to the role for the society, because you mentioned here a lot of the DeFi can do a lot of great things, and there are countries which have not so advanced finance systems, so they cannot get to saving and whatever. But for all of this, from my perspective, it seems that it can work Bitcoin. But we have here thousands of other cryptocurrencies, thousands of other crypto projects, and I'm not even sure if there is even so many like use cases for those cryptocurrencies. So maybe you mentioned it, Rob. I like you bank without banking without banks, but can it substitute all Bitcoin, or do we need any other DeFi projects?
I think the future is tokenized, which means we will tokenize the world. We will have maybe our children. Let me just tell you example of what we are working on. For instance, our cars are highly with a high tech inside in cars, but still a car cannot pay for its service. A car is not able to pay for parking. We must do that. And of course we say, yeah, of course we must do that. But in the world, I think that is very, very old-fashioned. And we will be, in maybe 20 years, we say, what? Your car couldn't pay for parking? Couldn't pay for fuel? The car and your shoes don't know that you own them? They have no chip inside? They are really just physical? And I think there are many use cases outside in future. I mean, our mobile phone has an IP, has some intelligence. Some phones have a wallet inside, so they are the first step. But actually, a company in Austria, for instance, did for Daimler Chrysler a car wallet. They start that machines have inside a wallet, and in that wallet there are tokens, coins for different purposes. What they do, they stake data. They will even provide data, and the user, in this case, is the car is a user also. We have new players in this field. So just to sum it up, yes, we will have a tokenized world. We will have more, maybe we need much more token than this 8,000. Probably they will be in future in a what is called a Web3, an internet of blockchains. So all these blockchains we know now, Bitcoin, Ethereum and others, Polkadot and how they're called, maybe they form something called the Internet 0.3 or Web3. And that internet is able to transfer value so that we can make use of that. And we call it maybe a new internet, the Internet 3 or whatever, Web3. Now we speak about the internet and we don't ask how many servers are there, we don't care. And in the Web3 we'll not care too, but new transactions are possible, financial transactions. Bitcoin could be one solution for payments, I don't know, but for digital gold, maybe Ethereum, but it can change over time. Bitcoin, by the way, in the beginning was very meant digital cash, but now we see that it's long-term investment for Bitcoin. We have to look at the long perspective. Yeah.
Thank you, Rob. The guys want to add up something, or lady?
Yeah, I would like to comment on it first and then get David's perspective. Well, the way the general consensus right now is that the future will be multi-chain. So there will certainly not be just Ethereum or Bitcoin. And as we have seen with the rise of mostly EVM-based blockchains and layer 2 solutions like Polygon or Avalanche or Phantom, all of these chains have basically built up different communities, and I think this really goes well goes really nicely with the ethos of further decentralization away from just one chain, as this creates a rather large systematic risk in case something happens to that chain. And as we have seen over the years, specifically with Ethereum, that there are inherent limitations to the technology. For instance, you cannot just increase the size of the block indefinitely and play with the variables, because then it would not make it feasible to run the full node, let's say through a laptop, which has always been sort of among one of the priorities. So it is very likely that like already it's happening now, but perhaps in 2 to 5 years there will be 10, possibly plus more chains with sort of equal robustness and reputation as Ethereum, and they will be connected with each other through some sort of Web3 framework or some sort of bridge solution. It's definitely still being researched, and there isn't any robust solution as of yet, as we have seen in with many recent hacks of like Wormhole, Bridge, and a couple of others. But in my view, the future is certainly multi-chain, and perhaps even Bitcoin itself is not really such a great way of paying for everyday goods. And even if Bitcoin was the platform for this, it is very likely that there would have to be some token on top of it. So not the native BTC, but some sort of USDC or some sort of other stable coin. And as with Bitcoin, we know that Bitcoin itself, the transactions are still fairly expensive, less than Ethereum. But even through Lightning Network, it's not exactly user-friendly for the the average Joe. So there's still a lot of discussion to be had, and we'll see how it goes. David, what do you think?
Yeah, I would in general agree. I would just maybe add that there is it needs to be distinguished if we talk about monetary qualities of crypto assets, because there are just very few that actually attempt to be money. Most of the crypto assets don't care to be money, and it's not their goal to be money. So if we talk about really like money and monetary qualities, then it's just really about Bitcoin and I would argue Ether, and the rest it simply has completely different purpose. And of course, if we talk about like also like the technological infrastructure, yeah, as was said, we need competition also when it comes to monetary values, but also when it comes to infrastructure, because Kenneth mentioned the technical limitations of Ethereum virtual machine. This is so much even more applied to the limitations of the Bitcoin protocol itself, which is very limited. And in theory, you can do anything there. In practice, you cannot really, and that's why nothing is happening there almost. But it's boring, and it does its job really good. Like it's being the global reserve currency, and that's probably what most people want from it. And so why we have so many coins all over the DeFi world is that we, of course, want to decentralize this infrastructure and these protocols. And usually these crypto assets that are involved there they have some very limited purpose, often just governance, right? For example, so all these protocols, they actually could function, and many of them function without tokens for some time, but then this token was there deployed in order to allow community to really govern those protocols. So it's just like a very limited functionality of these tokens, and they don't have any monetary quality, and yet they do have some utility and kind of justification for their existence.
Thank you, David. Maria, I want you to add up something.
Yeah, actually, again, everyone said everything. Like the only thing that I can add, probably for me, DeFi is mostly like, first thing that when I think of DeFi is lending. So I think like this is one of the best examples how DeFi can work like in comparison to the banking system. So me as a representative of their centralized crypto exchange, of course, like I can see much more interesting things that you can do like as a normal user or trader on centralized exchange. But for example, if you speak about the lending services, so you don't need to go to the bank with a lot of documents, of your friends or your family, or you don't need to show anything. The only thing that you need to have is actually money on your crypto wallet, and that's it. And you can get a loan, or you can, like, vice versa, you can make your money work for you. So this is a great thing. So this is like, you don't need to wait for bank transfers or pay bank fees or anything. So this is just, this is great. This is one of their, I think, best features that DeFi showed us, that we don't need to be this dependent on banks, for example.
I'm glad, Maria, that you mentioned this DeFi services, for example, lending like money, but I come back a bit to my second question, and it was, do we need so many projects? Because what you mentioned, we have for these services like Aave or another services, but let's say we can have like 10, 20, 30 of them. We have thousands of projects, and this what was the question, because we are on investment conference, and how can even investor decide which project has sense and which doesn't?
This is actually the main risk of DeFi. You actually can't, and there is no consumer protection in DeFi. So you probably heard a lot of hacks that they go in from time to time. So for example, I remember one of the biggest was in August 2021 when the Fully network was hacked for $610 million. Luckily, all the funds were returned, but still, you have literally no customer protection. So you need to do your research. And of course, as being representative of centralized exchange, when we list tokens, we do full due diligence. You can't get the due diligence of the DeFi protocols. Not all of them are even audited properly. So of course, like I say, we don't need all of them, like half of them, maybe 80%, 90% of them. But unfortunately, this is a free market, we can't do anything literally about that. So.
Robert was smiling, yeah. But I'm just stay with Maria for a while. You thought there's no customer protection, and so don't you think that those whole DeFi is built just for few communities, but majority of people likes the consumer protection, at least partly?
Well, exactly. This is the main advantage of being on centralized exchange, for example. But at the same time, the higher the risk, the bigger the profit. I mean, this is about your risk appetite and how you measure your risks and the possibility of profit. So if you go to DeFi, this is on you basically. They're measuring the risks, and but if you measure the risk in a good way, you can get much more profit that you can get anywhere else.
Thank you very much. Now I'm giving word to Rob.
Yes, and to finalize this sentence, because not all has been said yet, you have, of course, a perfect perspective with cryptocurrencies. They can grow like crazy, but also they can, as we see now, and that hurts, they can go down. But it was obvious that, for instance, Bitcoin will, I wrote last month in my blog, cryptorobbie.com, by the way, little advertisement, cryptorobbie.com, I wrote last month that Bitcoin could go back to 20,000, and the next stop is 14,000. So I'm very relaxed to see Bitcoin going to 14,000. It will go there. It's a Fibonacci calculation, and all the stops of machine traders, robo-advisors, they put the stop there. So yeah, we will see that probably. Maybe I'm wrong, then I'm happy. But if I'm right, I'm happy too, because I'm still the same person, and the blockchain technology is still the same, and Bitcoin network is still the same. So nothing changed. It's just the people who trade and the greed and the fear that makes this market drive at the moment. And there is macro, of course, the macro is behind that. The macroeconomic situation, the three crises, climate, Ukraine crisis, and COVID. So yeah, we have to deal with these things, and the of course mismanagement of the centralized banking systems and governments printing money like hell, and so being surprised that we have inflation. Oh yeah, wow, that's very surprising. Not to all of us. The question on decentralized finance, the problem with decentralized finance is it's not very user-friendly. It's really, it looks like crap. It's so hard to use. It's so difficult to enter. And when it comes to evaluation of projects, there is a website, Cointelligence. a coin, like the coin, Bitcoin, and intelligence, like intelligence, cointelligence.com, they rank 367 exchanges, for instance. So I think what they do, they judge on the team of the exchange, the trust, how much it can be trusted, how often they have been hacked. By the way, I think EXMO is also ranked there with a quite good graduation. Congratulations, by the way. And you can check Cointelligence, and then you go on Exchange. There you see, and these kind of sources help, these lost consumers and users at least to get some advice. But the question is which website to use. Cointelligence I can recommend. For instance, I use that.
I can recommend Crypto Compare. I think you all guys know it. They do the rating of top 50 exchanges. We are happy to say we're 20s. I think they also they consider all the factors that can be it's legal, it's liquidity, it's security, it's everything. So on my side, I can recommend Crypto Compare.
You wanna add up?
Yeah. When we talk about the consumer protection, all these sources are definitely very helpful for many people who want to deal with crypto. But I think no amount of research and no amount of resources will actually really protect you in DeFi because there is no consumer protection. There is also lots of also mismanagement in the crypto project often. But the important difference is that if it happens in DeFi and crypto, they will be penalized and they will die. Whereas if mismanagement is happening with the central banks, they will simply are still protected by law, and we have no escape from them. So DeFi doesn't have consumer protection, but I don't think it. I think the applications and products built on top of DeFi, there should be consumer protection applied there. But DeFi is definitely a wild west at this point, and it's a lot of fun, and it's mainly for people who are ready for some volatility in their lives.
It's very nice to hear that the DeFi is Wild West, because from one perspective, it seems when I'm talking journalists with people from DeFi, they thought that's future of finance. And on the other hand, I hear that's kind of Wild West. And I try to test it, DeFi. I give you a word in a while. I try to test it and I try to staking, farming, whatever. But sometimes there happen, for example, those small things that you send your crypto to MetaMask, and for example, MetaMask don't recognize your token, so you need to know the name of the token and you need to adapt there manually. And it happens not so less likely, it happens often. So I'm asking, isn't the problem of DeFi that it's really built for enthusiasts and the front end and whole environment is not built for average user? And maybe if it would be built for average user, then it will be more spread between people and more used in real life.
I would just come back to my comparison with the Wild Wild West. If you were retrospectively look at the Wild Wild West in the 18th century, it was the future of the strongest market economy and one of the biggest civilization. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that it's a Wild Wild West. So I just want to point out that it's wild, but it brings lots of innovation, and it's definitely the future of finance, no doubt.
I want to point out one thing, that very often when people refer to DeFi or these lending projects, they refer to Celsius or Nexo, or basically these projects that Celsius is now insolvent. They have frozen the withdrawals. So it's certainly not a fault of the underlying technology or DeFi itself. It's rather the fault of centralization and certainly a mismanagement to some degree, but we are still in the middle of these things playing out, and we will see how it goes. I'm very curious, especially in the case of Celsius. What are your thoughts on this, David? This is a very recent development, 2 days ago.
Yeah, definitely, and that's just a manifestation of mismanagement of just one particular company that amassed lots of assets and lots of money from many people, and they behave like idiots. and they will probably pay the price. Unfortunately, many of their customers as well, and yeah, there are probably quite a few other examples in crypto and of the companies that have behaved similarly, and it's a good thing. Like it will filter, the market will filter out these kind of companies, and essentially it makes the whole industry stronger.
Do you think that perhaps in the case of Celsius, it might play out in a similar fashion as we have seen recently with Luna and UST, or what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, no, Luna was evaporated basically in 3 days to zero. So I don't think will be the case with Celsius. They just most likely become cash flow insolvent, which means that they are at the moment for some time period unable to pay back some of their liabilities. We still don't know how much are they screwed. We will see in the probably next days. But to large extent, I assume that most of the assets, and they will be able to pay at least some significant portion of the liability. So it will be not evaporated to zero. But of course, still many people will probably cry.
Thank you.
You want to add up something?
Yeah, we heard about stable coins. They meant to be stable. That's part of this decentralized finance system. Turns out they are not so stable. Luna project crashed with their stable coin. We'll see other, Tron is the next big blockchain project. They also will probably be not able to, it just crashed today and yesterday. So it's what we talk, but what is very interesting with decentralized finance, it's not something that happened last year or 2 years ago, it happens now. So when we cannot surprise you with any news because we don't know what's happening tomorrow. I just read the news this morning that Tron mismanaged also their stable coin. So it's also good to be here to listen to that updated news because you're on the right spot. The things is happening here and now, and that's what we have to see with the decentralized finance. Is not and what I want to add is. Decentralized finance should finance something. What would that be? And I mentioned already a part of it, that maybe, of course, persons can create an income, an additional passive income through staking, which is also kind of interest rates. You call it staking in blockchain. We have a new word, but it's interest rates, yeah, when you hear about coin staking. But what we still miss, and we have maybe people also from industry. I work a lot with large industry companies, automotive, biotech, and IT hardware in industry. What we still miss is decentralized devices. Because what we can do is I explained at the very beginning, the payment, the email, the money email can be sent without anybody interfering. But a device, like a car with a wallet inside, we still miss that the wallet, the machine can send us directly. We miss that a camera which we have. A camera makes a picture. The picture is saved in the cloud. The picture is saved maybe on one's computer, on one's laptop. It's not decentralized in that case in the way that you can directly receive that picture. We miss devices. And there is a big market, and that's also when we talk about opportunities. Decentralized finance cannot be just for the sake of decentralized finance, but it must be linked to an industry which makes use of it. And that's production machines, for instance, for whatever, bottles of Coca-Cola or cars. And there's a big production here in industry in Slovakia in car productions. So that's the future of decentralized finance, decentralized machines.
Thank you very much, Rob. I got 2 more lists of questions, but I don't want to be selfish. So I start with questions from audience, and then maybe we will come back to my questions. So the first question is, how do we get more women into DeFi so 99% don't end up enslaved to men again like in the old days? Good days or railway days? So it's maybe, Maria, a question on you as a WomenTech ambassador.
Yeah, this is a very funny question. Well, what can I say? First of all, we will never be equal. I think, like in the near future, it's men's environment, all the finances and crypto in general. I think like a few years ago, I had like an incident during the conference. We were sitting in a panel discussion, and we were discussing the legal and regulatory condition of crypto. And as soon, like, you know, we at EXMO, we are very familiar with this, and we have our experience with FCA, with Lithuania, with FinCEN, so I'm very familiar with the topic. And the man, as a moderator, he literally did this when I was talking, so he wanted like me to stop talking. And I think it actually, like, I'm not even offended. I mean, I understand this is like a men's world, and I don't think that we can like do something to like involve more women. I think the only thing that we can actually do is just to show that our knowledge and our you know, our possibility of like handling the business, managing the business is the same or even higher than their same candidates from the men's world. And I don't think that actually I don't suffer from I don't know, from inequality. And our company, of course, is the majority of men, but we also have women. And I think if you feel like under pressure or if you feel unequal, it's just not your company, not your world. You just try somewhere else.
Thank you very much, Maria. Maybe you were 100% right, because I just counted the audience and I found here 6, maybe 7 women and dozens of men. So,
yeah, but it's fine.
as you thought.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, you know. It's just the same as like I'm coming from the oil and gas industry, where like women are really rare, and like it's even worse. Believe me, it's even worse. So I mean, you just don't you know, take it as an opportunity. Like, you know, don't worry. Everything will work out the best way. Just if you feel that you know, you're unequal or they don't treat you equally, so just leave this place, leave this company, and try somewhere else.
Thank you. Robert is smiling, so
yes.
you want to have something?
Yes, sometimes I'm smiling, sometimes not. I'm smiling because actually there is an event in Vienna. It's not so far, actually, it's 1 hour from here. It's every Wednesday, 7 p.m. in opposite Schwedenplatz. That's where the ferry from Twin Ferry arrives. It's also a metro station. Opposite at Praterstraße 1, Block and Wine meetup. You find it on Eventbrite. Block and Wine every day, every week, Wednesday, 7 p.m. So if you're in Vienna, it's free of charge. Block and Wine. We meet the end. What we do, every week we present a project managed by a woman. So yesterday, for instance, was Jewels presented NFT project by Susanna Bastian. By the way, she's from Bratislava, and she presented yesterday evening a project on digital jewelry, which is very successful, which made it to New York Times and so on. And I also told her, maybe you should also one day present in Bratislava, because I mean, you're actually Slovak, but she's in Vienna, a pity. So would be also a chance to bring her here. That's just in my... Every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Another advertisement, I read just, okay, sorry for that, but yeah, had to be.
So every Wednesday at 7 p.m. at Vienna.
Yes. Booked via, you find Block and Wine, and there is water and wine is free of charge. You just come there, and yeah, I can recommend. It's a cool project. Also, another project was mentioned yesterday, an NFT movie shot investment project, how to finance movies with NFTs. It's from the film industry. It's really projects which we run this Block and Wine since 3 years, and really large projects evolved from it. And so that shows there is some success. Of course, many projects died, like in a startup field, but that's the world.
Thank you, Rob. So if something is interested, just write to Rob. And maybe you guys want to add up something, or you don't have to, because we have here many more questions, so it's up to you. Okay. I want to ask, why is it so important to cut off the middleman, banks, other financial institutions like processors, Visa, Mastercard? So maybe you can start, Kenneth.
Okay, so I would say this is the biggest reasons why the banks get all the hate, because essentially you are providing very little value in terms of labor. You are providing a trusted party in the ecosystem, and you get to keep somewhat large fees, 2%, that's fairly standard even with modern services like Stripe. And as far as regular banking checking accounts, the fees are quite outrageous, especially for normal consumer products. And this is where Web3 gets really interesting, is that this new tech allows us essentially as a society, as a community, to provide the same level of service, but at 10 times lower the fees. And this is, I would say, in particular, what the banksters don't like about the Web3 and why they are sort of not really, they haven't embraced it fully. They're still trying to derive as much value as possible from the legacy business models. But they understand that this is something that is inevitable, because ultimately money and economics, it's a public matter. It's for the people to decide. And there will certainly be a paradigm shift within the next decade or so. It's already happening, as we see.
You want to add up something? David, you are looking here.
Yeah, I can maybe add so I think it's not only just blindly about eliminating the middleman, it's more about really creating solutions that are there. So it's about optionality for people and consumers who choose to use services that operate without middlemen, because of course both of the paradigms bring different trade-offs, different drawbacks and benefits. And of course I think mostly why quite many people prefer these decentralized services is that there is no middleman there, because essentially if you have a middleman there, you are at their mercy, and some of them are good, some of them are worse, some of them are really bad, and sometimes they can screw up. But the point is that they have a power over you, and so the whole decentralized movement was grown because essentially to liberate the users and consumers and to empower the people to be really autonomous.
I would just like to add one thing, that due to having more options on the market, whether it's the CeFi or DeFi options, you are at liberty to choose the type of service that provides you the best user experience, you specifically. For instance, an interesting example, you might have noticed that over the past maybe 2 years, EU has introduced this new regulation where if you pay with the debit card online, you might very often have to do the double authentication, whether it's via an SMS or a push notifications, and you can't even disable it. You don't even have the option. And why should you be forced into something you don't want to, and that lowers your shopping experience, for instance? You should always have optionality. You should not be locked in to one financial institution. Even, of course, it's not possible to disconnect entirely, but it's certainly much better to have several, whether it's neobanks or even local accounts, and whoever treats you the best, you use that service.
Excuse me, that was my question, so I just want to add it on. Thank you very much for answering in so much detail. But from my point of view, you are representatives of crypto companies, so people give you their money, so you have certain power over them. So to me, it just seems like that you're a bit jelly about the big banks taking all the big money, and you want to have your own cut. So you created this industry, and so the big banks don't get the whole pie, but you're going to take a big portion of it.
Okay, I'll touch upon this just very quickly. Specifically from my point of view, we specialize in developing the software solutions, and we always advise the clients to go with the non-custodial way and create the business model around this notion that they are not in fact simulating a bank or taking deposits per se, but they are trying to take their cut from an alternative means, such as providing like a paid app or some add-ons, or like they'll have a freemium model as well as a premium model. It's not really about that. David.
Maybe I should answer also this, because we are the brokerage company basically. So yes, you are right that we are the old school business model, let's say, in these modern assets. And it's completely fine, because while I believe that decentralization is super important, I advocate it for everyone. I do believe that actually the consumer preferences are not there, and unfortunately, perhaps, I believe that most of the people will not choose the decentralized things, because it's just more complicated. It takes lots of effort and time. So they will. I believe that the consumer preferences will always tend towards centralized services. Unfortunately, but I think that's the deal, and of course there is a good reason for it. There are some benefits. It's easier. Simply, there are some disadvantages that Kenneth mentioned, of course, as well. That you have to be like super regulated and compliant with thousands of regulations. But it's about the optionality that I mentioned at the beginning. It's important that these things are being built so people can actually choose what they prefer and what they want to use. And I believe both roads are relevant. They will be there. Now it's just the question, like, how much of the market pie will go to which direction. But I think, unfortunately, or I don't know, maybe fortunately for us, I don't know, it will be most of the people will prefer centralized services.
And I wish you guys all the best in the business. That was a really good answer. I mean, we're all in the business of making money, so I mean, there is nothing bad about that. So I have nothing, against people having more options. So it's a really good point of view.
Thank you very much. I will just translate it to Maria, because she maybe didn't hear us. Maria, the question was from the audience, and it was that the question was about why should we just cut off middlemen like the banks from the financial system. But then from the audience came up another question, that many speakers here and also you represent the another part who is cutting the middleman and who is the competitor of the banks. So you are, of course, telling like your opinion which fits to you. So do you want to add up something to it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we are in a way a middleman also as a centralized exchange, and so definitely there are disadvantages, because, like, as they say, crypto not in your wallet, or like if it's in a wallet via the exchange, it's not your crypto. And in a way, I agree, because that's obviously true. If we don't know which centralized exchange you use. But from the other point of view, for example, if you forgot the password or like their safe phrase, you just lost. You have no idea how to proceed next. You just lose your crypto. With us, of course, you can write to support, show all the documents, like do their video verification, and your crypto is back with you. Or, for example, like we also use different custodians to have the custody on your crypto. You don't have this with DeFi. As I said, like there were a lot of hacks, and for example, if you're not lucky, you lose your crypto forever. Same as with the banks, my experience, especially lately, it's only negative with the banks, because like their money is going through like different, for example, like the simple transfer, for example, of 10K, for example, for the flat, or for like buying something, a big purchase, it's getting stuck in the bank, because like they're like me being like, I hold a Russian passport and I'm a UK resident. I live here for a long time, but like with recent events, with the war in Ukraine, of course, like all my transactions are like flagged. But I live in the UK, I work for the UK firm, and it's really bizarre how the person can be judged because of his passport or her passport. And this is just bizarre situation. It will never happen in the crypto world. And I think this is also like one of the examples why the middleman is bad. But of course, sometimes like their middleman can obviously help you with different problems, like we do, like as a centralized exchange. So I don't think that as someone from their speakers already said, I don't think that DeFi will substitute banks, but it will, first of all, it will give the banks like very good competition, very good, like the feeling of the competition, that they're like not alone there, and DeFi will be basically competing for their place in their customer wallet. And this is the first outtake. And the second one, of course, I mean, I think there is place for everyone on this market, and for the banks and for centralized exchanges and for DeFi, because users obviously use different types of entities for different purposes. So, for example, if you're like a trader, professional trader who deposits hundreds of thousands of euro via SEPA or SWIFT or any other like banking possibilities. Of course, you don't go to DeFi exchange. You go to centralized exchange with full verification, with custodians, with like AML and KYC, so you can be sure that everything goes in place. But if you want to like make some money on farming or like do the yield farming or whatever, I mean, you just go to DeFi platform and do that, or like stake your crypto. And this is like different purposes, different customers. And I always say that when people ask me like who's going to win, decentralized to centralized exchanges, I don't believe that they're competitors like at all. There are plenty of place for both of us on the market.
Thank you, Maria. Rob, you wanted to add something? Just please be fast.
Yeah. Okay, I will be very fast. My experience, first of all, I don't represent an exchange, but of course, we build projects. We had some coders from Pakistan. We tried to transfer the money with a GmbH, a company in Austria, to Pakistan. It was almost impossible because of different issues with banks. And then I asked the coder, do you have a Bitcoin wallet? And they said yes. And then so I opened for my company a Bitcoin a cryptocurrency account for the company officially. It's in a balance sheet. And I transferred the money, and transfer took 20 minutes, and it at low cost. With the bank, I have to have so many difficulties. So obviously the banking system has a problem, and with Bitcoin, sometimes it works. It doesn't always work, but it was for me a very practical solution, and I do that. Not big money to be transferred, but some, just to pay some coders.
Thank you very much. Next question. Who do you think will be eventually bigger censor, BigTech or state regulator? Can Facebook and Google just decide next election in Germany? Just our example. Who wants to answer? Maybe fast.
Big censors, you mean, so whether big tech limits us more? When we have the Roman of the metaverse, who invented the metaverse, Nick Stevenson, he described the metaverse in his Roman back in 1992, and he said that big tech, as the big technology companies, will have much more power. And I think, yes, that happened in the future. That's not a very good development. Twitter cut off the US president, the most powerful person in the world, of its follower base. One can discuss how Trump is or not, but that's a fact.
Maybe not DeFi. So just
so the large companies have more power, and decentralized finance and decentralized projects can limit that again.
I'm actually now rereading the book Snow Crash. I recommend it to everyone who wants to think or like know how people thought about metaverse 30 years ago. And yeah, but like to a question, like I think the answer is like both of these entities are, in my opinion, very much the same, because like big tech usually have to follow the orders from the government and from the state, so it's just basically a proxy of the state. And therefore, to very large extent, they are very much, in one bed, and it's the same thing. So they will do. The answer is they will do it on the same level, equally.
I think I got here a great question from audience. If you want to separate money from state, who will finance the army or roads and maybe the hospitals?
Okay, perhaps I can answer this very quickly. So as far as separating money from state, this is a fairly old idea that goes back to the times of Friedrich Hayek and his seminal work on denationalization of money, which basically says that in order to create a truly inclusive financial system that is, not immune but less prone to financial crises and such, it's much better to allow private companies to issue their own forms of money. A form of money could be a voucher from McDonald's that you are going to get one cheeseburger in 2022 as well as 2025. So you could say that it's much better form of money than US dollars, since it's immune to inflation. And there are numerous comparisons such as this one, but to go back to the other part of the question, who would build roads and who would sort of maintain the public infrastructure? If we look at the cost effectiveness of government managing these resources, it is vastly worse than any private entity could do it. And it's ultimately about the consensus among people. We could take some inspiration from Estonia or direct democracies, let's say in Switzerland, where it's really up to the people to decide. And if we go really just one step ahead of that, let's imagine there is a pothole in a road, and it's out of government's business. The people that sort of live in that area and such, like through some sort of digital framework, Google Maps or a metaverse application, they could drop a pin there, and this could be crowdfunded by people who it bothers them. They can transparently donate to this cause. There will be an automatic procurement of sort where the right company would be selected with the best offer to take care of the pothole. So there is many ways how to approach this, and certainly it is a new experiment. Even government being in charge of the money, it hasn't been like this forever, as we know.
I would just maybe add that if you look at what for meaningless things are being funded often in the private market, like Kardashians or all kinds of other shows, like I have zero doubts that things that really matter for people that would get funded. And I believe there is a lot of real-world evidence from many countries, even from developing countries, that if you look how a market can provide like an education, healthcare system, privately, and which is still more affordable, even like widely affordable for many people, and more affordable even compared to the government-sponsored services. And you can look, if you look at Africa or India, many like developing countries, this is like true there. And so therefore, the short answer is like it would be the market who would provide these services to be provided.
You want to add up?
Yeah, I think we need nations, we need states, we need that, and as I say, but the problem is when these states lose power, what comes next? There's a vacuum that can be dangerous. The military, and we see this in some countries, so I think nations must be strengthened. But of course, the democratic layer is also weakened through this big tech. We have seen Facebook manipulating, probably manipulating elections. That should stop. But what I think and my dream is that we have maybe a national worldwide currency, which could be Bitcoin or the United Nation coin. Wouldn't that be cool? We don't have to have, when we go on holiday, exchange, always this hassle. And we have a credit card which really works. When you have not try out Mastercard, another card, until it works. That's my dream. And of course, I'm also very much a fan of paying taxes, because with taxes we can have good infrastructure for education and health. But what we can see is there can be taxes paid by companies, but there could be also community. You mentioned that crowdfunding system, and you also with road repair. Yes. In countries where the state is weak, maybe this needs an NGO or a non-governmental approach. Maybe there could be both. Even in developed countries, we can have more community-based projects, and that could be done by so-called DAOs, distributed autonomous organizations, or kind of new NGO type of.
This can be the field where
yes.
DeFi can be really useful.
Absolutely.
I think. But you want to add up fast?
Yeah, because I think this is like a good opportunity to disagree with Robbie. So yeah, I don't believe that we need that much really the nation state. I think it's more of a relic of the past, and in the increasingly more decentralized and globalized world, I think it doesn't really make sense, but probably it's a more edgy opinion that I stand here, but and to what you mentioned, like this fancy sounding thing about the UN nation coin, and we have a similar thing in euro, euro we call it, and it sounds good, but it's not such a fun if you have to fund the fiscal liabilities as a Slovak of a Greek citizens, and so there are many drawbacks to it. Of course, what you mentioned, these benefits are like nice, but essentially I think it's a net loss for many countries and maybe for the system as well, and we will see how long it will be able to survive. But I think we will need much more competition when it comes to all kinds of services, when it comes to the issuance of the money. So we have like a higher monetary quality on the market when it comes to money.
Thank you, David. I just asked Maria if she is, from her academic perspective, want to add up something, or if not, I got another question.
Yeah, everybody said everything, don't want to basically repeat the same things.
So, Rob, you mentioned the centralization and decentralization, and also the role of state, and the power of state. From my perspective, all DeFi projects, or maybe most of them, which I know, have any people behind it. And that's what makes them totally different to compare with the Bitcoin, because no one knows who's behind Bitcoin, like the real person. So can be just the Bitcoin, the international currency, or is there any potential for some another currency? But the advantage of Bitcoin is that because of no one is behind it, no one can stop it or put someone to jail, as it happens in history many times. For example, at someone.
The Bitcoin inventor or a team of inventors were very clever. They thought, if we make money, we produce a computer code, and build money on. Maybe secret services will come after us, governments will come after us, so they kept secret. So Bitcoin is, we don't know who coded that. There are some indications, they limit it down to 5 persons, but finally we really don't know exactly. That's an advantage for Bitcoin, so you cannot go after it, and you cannot call Bitcoin. Other projects, you mentioned that, yes, there are people behind that projects, and sometimes, of course, they are vulnerable. Vitalik Buterin is the founder of the second largest project, Ethereum, and others. So these projects are very much connected to people. I like that, actually, the fact. Personally, I like, because you can see the founder, the philosophy. It makes the project more human, and also sees whether it's more corrupted or that the intention is clear. Because we are humans, we attach to other humans in a way, and we can understand better what they want.
I would just maybe add that even with Bitcoin now, we actually know who is developing Bitcoin. There are a few hundred developers. Most of them we know their identities. So who was in the beginning there, it doesn't really matter, because he has no power now, and we know even the entities who develop Bitcoin at this point, mostly. But what you said, there is this cult-driven communities. There is some advantage, of course, to that, because they are able to attract a lot of crowd. It was the case with Luna and UST as well. And but of course, it also brings some drawbacks, because they often also mismanage. They often are vulnerable to all kinds of drawbacks as well. But yeah, there is again just like a trade-off, and there are both paradigms, have their justification.
Thank you very much. I have here last question, so please just reply on it, yes or no, and if no, just one sentence why, because it's the answer like this. Wasn't the 2021 DeFi just lending to buy more DEXs? People bought all 5,000 plus useless token. Wasn't 99% 2001 DeFi just gambling, no real business? It's question to all of you, so we can start maybe from David. Just reply yes, no, and if no, why no, but fast.
Okay, yeah, to a lot of extent it was overhyped, and yeah, there was lots of gambling, and still it has its justification. I would sum it up.
Yeah, it was gambling. It was people were greedy. They wanted to get rich fast, but now they are anxious. What I see is projects are built disconnected to the market. So we have industries and clever startups building new wonderful projects, and we will see them soon when the dust clears.
So absolutely, there was a lot of speculation that is very much undeniable, but as we know, part of the growth and maturing of the ecosystem is having those failures and learning from them, and really as a community trying to avoid these mistakes in the future. So there was certainly a lot of value in these failures, the way I look at it.
Maria?
Yeah, I completely agree. It reminds me actually their boom of ICOs in 2017. So it's pretty much the same, but look how market cleaned now. So I think it's for the best.
Thank you all very much. We have last 10 minutes, and because we are on an Invest conference, Invest Summit, I have an investment question. And it's very difficult to reply on it, I'm sure, for 10 minutes, and it would be maybe for days and weeks. But when we are talking about DeFi, there's very important fundament. We can see many technical analysis or crypto content, the crypto tokens, whatever, but very important is fundament. And how can average investor recognize like whether the project is okay or whether it's just a kind of shitcoin, as was mentioned here, and totally useless thing?
And the answer is it's super difficult, and as we can now see, also like the specialists, one of the most richest hedge funds in crypto, they fail to recognize which projects are good, and they fail to do risk management. And so the answer is basically it's to a large extent impossible for a person. It's a lot about luck, and it's that would be my answer to that, because there are of course some procedures, and you can like check the resources that were mentioned here already. You can check the team, you can check the viability of the tech, but still it doesn't really protect you from being wrecked. And I have to apologize I have to go now. So
okay, so thank you very much for joining our discussion.
Bye, David.
So it's not just the two of us.
Yes. 3. 4.
Oh, you are correct.
So, someone want to add up?
Absolutely, I'll go ahead. So it is undeniable that this year, we have seen a bit of a collapse. But as far as DeFi opportunities, what are really the metrics that an average investor should look at? Certainly has been community involvement, and such as number of contributions on GitHub, looking at the Discord community, looking at the Telegram community. But as we have seen recently in the case of Luna, Terra, as has been mentioned already a few times, this perhaps might not be the best metric. And certainly if you are more of a pro user, it makes sense to deeply examine the smart contracts, see if there is some novel way of handling a certain problem. So really from a position of a novice or an average investor, you would be much better just finding a trusted party or a trusted source of information that does in-depth analysis. There is websites like Nansen.ai or Messari or quite a few. Or perhaps, obviously, getting advice from someone that you know personally, you trust, and they work in DeFi. Someone who is in a position better than yourself and that is deeply involved in the industry. But of course, you can just go to CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, CryptoCompare, and see on some basic criteria like daily volume, if the project is listed on a top-tier exchange such as Binance, Huobi, and such. What are your thoughts?
Just the listing, in my opinion, Binance has a lot of coins, and most of their are not so high quality.
Absolutely, but you have to look at the volume. Shitcoins,
exactly.
yeah. But you have to look things such as volume. How long has the coin been listed there? Whether the volume has been consistent. Whether the market capitalization is somewhat anchored in reality. These are the things that you need to consider.
Yeah, maybe yes, maybe not. Why? We have at 6 p.m. here an NFT exhibition in this conference. And NFTs are non-fungible token. They're linked to art. But what an NFT is very easy. Passport is, for instance, an NFT. You have a certain right to enter a country, or a driving license is an NFT. And outside, they try to promote an NFT for art pieces. And besides volume, yes, I agree. One can check the volume and all this market data. But we are also human beings. We can look at the picture, an art piece of art, and we find it, we like it. Yeah, we talk to the artist, like Susa, the artist outside. She does the unimpressed geisha. Interesting topic. Unimpressed women. So geisha, very structured. So that's her piece of art. You can check that, and it's 3D. It's linked to new technology. So that I find this story nice from this artist. You can just see it outside. I love stories, and what we miss in this space is good stories. Because to buy something and sell something at a higher price, buy low, sell high, is boring to me. I want to hear what's the future, what's the perspective, what's.
I'm sorry, Rob.
Yeah.
May I just interrupt?
Yes.
I'm not so tech advanced woman. So was it the story in the, let's say, project which tells we are building next layer, which is Web3 zero, and which improves, let's say, some speed, or, you know, for me, it's very technical. I'm not seeing there's the story, and many of retail investors don't see the story. That's the maybe problem of crypto, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, but the story is that we have an intuition. And that's that we work with large customers. I work for several multi-billion-dollar companies who are looking at this NFT space. So I know this NFT craze is come to stay. Of course, it will not stop at the art. We will have NFTs for ID, for identities, for machines, but with art it starts, and with art we can see we like that story. It's detailed, or it's just crap. Even it's simply not beautiful. It's weird. Then if it's weird, it's maybe also not so much worth. But if there is an artist who puts a lot of effort and can also explain why this Web3 for this artist makes sense to link physical world with the digital world, then I would say, yeah, that could make sense, and that's worth an investment.
Rob, we have last 5 minutes. I wanted to ask Maria also for this question, but just fast your reply. Was Luna beautiful or not? Was Luna beautiful or not? Luna project, was it beautiful? Because you said we need.
No, I never bought that because of I didn't trust the founder.
Okay, Maria. You want to add up something to like this analysis of DeFi project?
Yeah, actually, I completely agree with the first speaker that said it's impossible with DeFi, like almost next to impossible, because we've both seen that even like bigger firms and like very big market players, they failed. I can say one thing. With centralized exchanges, obviously it's easier. First of all, because like we have people who are analyzing like not only like the team, but also we do their due diligence and audit of the coin, and like of their tech side of the coin and like legal side of the coin. We check legal opinions and different kind of various things. So with exchanges, with centralized exchanges, it's easier. With DeFi, everything is on you, risk is on you, but again, like the profit is also on you, and the gains are much bigger than they can be on centralized exchange.
And don't you think, Maria, that the customer would welcome maybe kind of regulation?
Yeah, but I mean, you know what? Like, I wanted to add, like, to the previous question also, that you said that it's Wild West currently, but I would say it's even for all the crypto is Wild West. Like, you know, FCA is currently, they're doing, like, FCA is a regulator here in the UK. I mean, they're trying to regulate their, like, at the moment, they're, like, in the process of regulating stable coins, and they didn't even touch DeFi, which is like much more complicated. Even stable coins are complicated because we also know that there are decentralized stable coins, and it's a lot of work to do. And you know, we are very far away from regulation. So I mean, obviously, all like, you know, it's a fair mistake even from the regulator perspective that we as exchanges or like you know, customers, they don't want regulation, they want Wild West. I think like everybody appreciates when the market is regulated and when you can actually go somewhere to blame someone and like receive your money back if you're like were scammed or something like that. So yeah, of course, but like maybe the DeFi activists, they will like say that no, we want like a free market and stuff. But I think it can be like going on and on. We can have this argument for forever. But like from my perspective, I think it's much better when the market is regulated. Maybe not over-regulated, so like SEC, for example, in the US, but regulated, normally regulated.
Guys, the questions for you, just fast reply. Do you think that it's even possible to properly regulate the DeFi business?
Yeah, I mentioned already, I think states and nations are necessary to keep infrastructure running, and it's also part of the infrastructure. We need, of course, regulation. It would make of the crypto industry. Yes, I'm very much in favor of that. It needs to be avoided that it is a criminal abuse and all these other abuses we see, money laundering. I don't want that, and that needs to be regulated. Yes.
No, because when you look at it purely from a mathematical perspective, even the regular financial world, we know the CTF, AML policies, they are utterly ineffective. They are less, even according to the numbers by Europol itself, they are less than 1% effective at preventing money laundering and financial crime. And the byproduct of these regulations that we perhaps might look at being very mild is that they, to a large degree, affect underprivileged communities, people that, those unbanked or underserved. 18% of those people has cited as the main reason why they have no access to even basic financial services is the lack of having ID credentials and such, which is now a widespread regulation all over the world, to a large degree due to US standards. And as far as with crypto, the regulation is the code. So once the technology is there and the code is advanced to such degree, has been audited multiple times, there isn't really nothing to regulate. And I think we should really teach people self-responsibility and to really completely erase this mindset that something goes wrong, which is I'm entirely responsible for, and I'm going to blame someone else for something I have done. Makes no sense. And this is not really a view that I agree with.
Yeah,
thank you very much. Our time is over. So as you heard, if you invest to DeFi and you lose your money, it's up to you and it's very fine. Now I switch to Czech again in Slovak. Děkuju moc za to, thank you our panelists once again in English for participation in conference.